Same thing as yesterday.
Hello, hello and welcome. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch. And just some notes, our next meeting will be Election Day. And instead of having like a formal meeting, we're going to have an Election Day happy hour. So we have, that's right, 5 to 7, and we'll put the notice out, but 5 to 7 in the half the ballroom, so we have the bigger, we'll put the TVs on. All we're asking is if you do decide to come or stop in, that you bring like a beverage and an hors d'oeuvre. I was like cheese crackers, so everyone has something to bring, so we're not short. I will bring cups and napkins and that kind of thing. I have some extra wine glasses and things like that. So that's, I'll put the notice out, and by then everyone should have voted probably, so we'll be celebrating. We'll see the returns come in, and yeah, if you would like to bring a friend, but that's what we're going to ask. Okay, so any questions on that? That sounds good? And then we'll, talk amongst ourselves how we want to continue down the road, okay? And a lot will depend on how the night turns out. Anyway.
Did anybody see our local celebrity last night on the news?
Who was that? Was this about what?
No,
voting?
This is about voting.
Oh, they were over. Good.
She wanted to know, what do you think? And I'm like, I have never been so happy to cast a vote.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You can always count on Donna for the sound bite, right? Did you talk about Move Silfab too? Did you get that in?
No, I didn't get that in.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we have a lot to do today, so thank you for coming. We're going to have our two school board candidates talk, and then Matt will talk about running for the state house. So first up, I'd like to have Dr. Scott come on up and give a round of applause. There you go. Welcome. Got the mic there?
I'm going to set this down.
Sure. Okay.
I'm a former teacher, so I'm going to have you take one and pass it around from this way, and maybe over on this side. Okay. Do you prefer I use the mic? Yeah, he's great. I'm on TV. All right. Well, thank you for having us come out today, and I think you're going to hear a lot of common things when you hear Kristi and I talk about our candidacies. But I'll give you a quick introduction. Most of the details are on that card, but I'm Scott Frattaroli. I am running for my third term on the Fort Mill School Board, so I've served the last 8 years on the board. Additionally, I've been with the district for 27 years. So I served as a teacher, I was an assistant principal, and then I was a principal that worked at Springfield. I was a principal there. Then I opened up Sugar Creek, which is right down the road here. Was principal there for 4 years, and then I opened up Dobie's Bridge. So a lot of experience and knowledge in the district. Additionally, and probably first and foremost, I'm a parent of 2 boys that have gone through the Fort Mill School District pre-K through 12th grade. Dominic, who was here, he's not here now, but is in the ROTC, came to an event here last year. He's a senior at Nation Ford High School. And then I've got an older son who's 23, living in Nashville, working almost off the payroll, is getting married next August. So very excited about that. In addition, I've got lots of public service and leadership experience. I've served on the York County Boys and Girls Club. Both my son and I are type 1 diabetics, so I do a lot for the diabetes community. I am board chair of a kids camp for kids with type 1 diabetes. I've served on the Western Carolinas Board of Directors for JDRF. So very involved with that. I've been an elder at church. I've also been part of my HOA. I don't know if that's a great thing or not, but it is definitely challenging. So I've been on the HOA board in Regent Park as well as where I live now off of Pleasant Road. People are asking, we're starting to get a lot of questions now that early voting has started. Why are you doing this again? And honestly, public service and education is so near and dear to my heart. I joke often about how public education is in my DNA. Mrs. Andraco, who's sitting over here, her husband was my assistant principal and also a colleague of my father, who was an elementary school principal. My father-in-law was a 5th grade teacher. I just love not only public education, but this community in particular that I've been a part of serving for the last 27 years. I think as you look at what we hope to accomplish over the next 4 years, I think there's going to be a lot of challenges. I think I'm going to hear some questions about some of the challenges that we're going to face as a district. I feel like Kristi and I'm going to speak for her, and she'll talk about herself in a minute. We bring a lot of experience, right? How to deal with those challenges, how to keep the district moving forward. So that everything that's been built here, those ratings that you see where we're the #1 district in South Carolina, top 1% in the country, all those things continue on. That the great things that you see in our community, rising home prices, businesses booming in this area, that all circles back to the heartbeat of our community, which is the schools. So we have the experience and the know-how to get things done in this district and really lead from a board trustee position. So I will probably, should I turn it over to Kristi and then we can take questions together? Because I think our questions are going to be, right, we can go back and forth. So thank you for your time again. Scott Frattaroli. If you haven't voted already, please consider voting for me on November 5th. Thank you.
And I've got flyers coming around as well. Thank you for having me. I'm Kristi Spears. I may have spoken with some of you before. In fact, I got lost in the parking lot because every time I've been here before, I've been over on the other side with the Romeos and the Juliets on a number of occasions. So hopefully there's some familiar faces in the audience. I'll start with my backstory. So we moved here when I was little. My dad got transferred to the Charlotte area. He was a golfer. And he was at some bar talking to people about golf, and they suggested this little community down here, this gated community at the time, this was in the 70s, called TKK. It had just opened, gated community, golf course, and, oh, by the way, you really want to go there because they have the best schools in the Fort Mill community that is anywhere in this area. So even back in the 70s, people were moving here because of the schools. So we bought a house there, and I attended Fort Mill schools from elementary through graduated from Fort Mill High School back when none of the schools that Scott mentioned existed. So every school that I attended has been torn down with the exception of I went to primary school at one wing of Fort Mill High School that is in fact still standing, but everything else is no longer in existence. Although my gym is where you can go vote when you leave here. I hope you will if you haven't already. So I grew up, I went to school here, graduated from Fort Mill High School, went to Clemson, and I thought I was going to be a teacher. I was going to be a math teacher because I loved math and analytics. And I did some student teaching, and I realized that while I had the math side of things, I did not have the ability to work with students who didn't want to learn. And I went home with ulcers every day because I was just so disappointed that, I don't understand. These kids don't love math. How can these kids not love math? So knowing that I couldn't live that way, I ended up getting a math degree. And I went to work for what became Bank of America. It was NCNB back then. And I worked there for 25 years. Had a great time, had a great career, rose up the ranks pretty fast, had big responsibilities, lots of people, lots of budgets. But I kind of got tired of the rat race. And so the reason I've spoken at the orchards a lot of times, at the building over there a lot of times is I was involved in the flight known as the Miracle on the Hudson that Sully was piloting. And I was on my way home from a trip to New York and kind of decided that life's too short. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so I wanted something better for my life. So I retired. And I failed at retirement because I didn't know what to do with my free time. So you guys have got it figured out, but I did not do well. There was not an Orchards at the time. So I happened to go to a State of the Community breakfast when a former high school friend of mine was at the time the board chair. Didn't know he was going to be there, but I went. And I heard about all the growth going on and the need to do a bond referendum to build Catawba Ridge High School. So I went up afterwards, said hi to my old colleague, and said, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And he said, have I got a deal for you? So I ran the bond referendum back in 2015 that gave us Catawba Ridge High School and the Aquatic Center over at the complex. Maybe you guys swim. And shortly after that, one of the current school board members decided not to run for re-election, and they came to me and said, I think you should run for the board. I'd never considered political office ever in my lifetime. I still don't think of it as a political office. I had been the PTO chair and all that kind of stuff, so I thought of it as a volunteer opportunity. And imagine my surprise when all of a sudden everybody said, so how are you going to raise campaign donations? And who's going to help you with your campaign? I said, oh my gosh, I have to run a campaign? I thought this was like the PTO, and they say, who wants to do it? And you raise your hand, and they go, okay, that's good, right? That's actually where I met Scott. I did not know him before. He and I were both elected in November of 2016, decided to run again in 2020, and here we are again. My biggest, I'll say, claim to fame during these last 8 years is I helped lead the board through the impact fee that you guys are fortunate enough not to have to pay. But it has provided over $70 million now that we've been able to build one school and part of another one that are under construction. It's provided a lot of tax relief for our residents that you guys would have to pay. So we did that in 2018. To Scott's point, we've had a lot of challenges. We went through COVID. We probably didn't do it perfectly, but we've recovered. Our schools were opened as quickly as we could be. Our students have recovered their losses in academics. We've had a number of challenges with growth and other things, and I don't think this is for the faint of heart. And I feel like experience at this stage is really important to take us through this next step. So that's why I decided to seek another term. And I think with that, we can take whatever questions you guys want to talk about.
I have a two-part question.
Okay.
Part one is, have you already faced some challenges about book bans or history issues? And second, with the new state mandate, I guess it's official, about books and things and teaching of topics, how would you plan to deal with that?
So I have the microphone, I get to go first.
Go.
Do I need to repeat it for okay, I wasn't sure if it would be picked up. We actually had our first book bans that anybody can remember in 20 years. In 2021, by one of our other candidates, was the one who brought the book ban forward in 2021. There was a book, I'll be the first to admit, there was a book that as soon as we saw what was in that book, the current board said, ooh, this doesn't belong in our schools, and it was removed the next morning. The other two books went through a process that had already existed for 20 years, just had never been used, or hadn't been used in a very, very long time. A committee reviews the books. It's made up of community members, teachers, media specialists, and they come up with a decision on whether the book should either remain as is, be taken out completely. be amended to only be available in the high school, things like that. These were high school books. These were not, we've never had a book challenge that was in the elementary, maybe not even middle school, I'm not sure. And so we've had that process. We have, to my knowledge, only removed the one that I mentioned at the very beginning. You want to clarify? Did I say it wrong?
No, it was probably more than 20 years ago. We had one challenge over a fairy tale, and just sort of the graphic nature of a fairy tale at the elementary school level, but we did not remove that book. But
Okay. Yeah, so since then, and that's the only one that I believe has come to the board level, because again, there's a process that's been in place for books to be reviewed, and I have seen some traffic that would imply that there are, well, actually, I take that back. We saw some traffic, and there was one 6 weeks ago. It was a textbook. It was the English Language Arts textbook
that the state gives us.
that the state approved, and then our teachers and committee selected of the 2 or 3 that were approved. So there was one. With the new legislation, one of the options, because the state can ultimately override any decision we make anyway, one of the options is to revert it to the state to make a decision. And since this was a textbook and 2 recommended readings from that textbook, we said, this is your book, you decided it originally, we'll pass that over to you. The state said, we need to change it. Textbooks are exempt from challenges. So we kicked it back over to them, and that's what they have done with it. I do not believe we've had any other formal challenges since then. We keep getting emails that say, hey, you've got pornography, and it's not from parents in our community, it's from somebody somewhere in the state, or not even in the state, that has gotten a list somewhere that they're sending to us.
What was objectionable?
It was related to themes of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll just sort of leave it at that. It was
Black and whites and stuff like that? Or
equity, yes. Equity, how people treat one another, yes. How different races or cultures are looked at differently by different races or cultures. It was, but in a state textbook, right, adopted.
What was the book that was banned? It's called Genderqueer.
Genderqueer, yes.
So it had to do about.
Yeah, there was graphic.
It's a graphic novel.
So
Yeah.
that was
Sorry.
bisexual or sexual stuff.
Homosexual, I believe, but I will say one of the things that came out in this process in 21, again, we have 20,000 books in a library, right? So the media specialist probably has not flipped through every page, but there was a page in it that didn't belong in a school library. I mean, these kids are seeing worse on their phones and other places, but it doesn't belong in a school library, which is why we removed it. But what we learned is this one genre of graphic novels is where most of the challenges seem to be. So we've put new processes in place now with our media specialists, because they go by what's recommended by various agencies, right? State, national agencies of books that have won awards and all these other things. And so it looks great on paper, right? These were all award winners. But now that we know that there are some things that may slip through in the graphic novels, they do an extra scan of those before putting them on the shelves.
Yeah. And the second part of your question was related to the new legislation about requesting materials from whether it be classroom libraries, lesson plans, what parents or community members can request from classrooms and schools. That is starting to become a challenge. Now, I think this is where there's a public perception about transparency in the school district. At the end of the day, everything that we do in the school district is transparent. We're using local money, we're using tax money, and really the ability there's talk about a parent's bill of rights, for instance, and a parent's bill of rights on things that they need to do. Everything really that's in that bill of rights they were already rights that parents had, right? And I think a lot of time there's a lot of discussion around things that schools can and can't do, when the reality is schools are strictly defined by policies and laws, and we're following policies and laws. So a lot of the things that you're seeing that can be perceived as we're watching everything you do, schools already know that you can watch everything that we do, right? That's a reality of public schools.
A parent has always had the opportunity to go into the classroom, see what the materials are, to object to anything that was sent home that they weren't comfortable with. There's always been a process for that. It's not new, it's available, has always been available. I think we've seen some, we're made up of humans. The teachers are humans. They all have different philosophies. Occasionally we've gotten a complaint where they used this example and it was a math question, but maybe worked in some political leanings, and so parents absolutely have the right to discuss that with the teacher and say, I don't think this is appropriate, and I'd like my child to do something different for this exercise. Not new, and should be handled that way.
But a lot of the things that we deal with at the board level are not board related questions. For us, we employ very capable, you can see what our scores are, very capable professionals to do their jobs. So when we get a lot of emails, when we get all the emails, we just direct them to Dr. Epps, and he directs to the building level principal. They handle the situation and the teacher. As a former building level principal, there's nothing I appreciated more than, one, having the support of the board and the district office, but two, knowing they allowed me to deal with issues within my building to really build a good, cohesive school community.
Why have school boards become so political?
If I could answer that. We have both run on a platform that this is a nonpartisan role. You don't see things on our campaign signs talking about conservative values or liberal values. We represent the values of every student and family in this district, as it should be. Right? Our interest is in serving this community, every single person, every single student, and making the best decisions for the taxpayers, for our staff, and most importantly for our students. So for us, it is not. We do not let politics creep into what we are doing. But yes, they have become that way.
Well, again, when Scott and I ran 8 years ago, it was never a topic of conversation. Your political affiliation was never a topic of conversation. It was literally not in the vernacular at all. When we ran 4 years ago, it had started creeping up. Still wasn't the main focus. I would say the main focus then, and this is where some politics started creeping up, was taxes. Because, I'll be honest, we raise taxes every year. We're going to have to raise taxes every year. We have no choice because we are growing, and the costs that we get from the state don't cover what we need for our growing district. The formula is such that we have to supplement with local taxes anyway, but the formula has changed in such a way over the last 8 years that the ratio, we used to get about 60% of state and put 40% on local. We're now the other way around. It's about 40-60. And the weightings have increased dramatically for poverty, which elsewhere in the state is great, but for our students, we get less per child because the majority are not poverty. So we have increased taxes, and it became political a little bit 4 years ago because they pointed out on our scorecard that some people did that we had voted to raise taxes every year. And it's true. We have, fortunately, most of that is operational taxes that only hits your cars. It doesn't hit your house. So I'm sorry that your car taxes are high. So are mine. I just had to get a new one, and it's abysmal, but that is the piece. And then as far as debt taxes, that's voted on by our citizens. And if it passes, then there's a tax increase. And if it doesn't pass, there's not. So those are not things that the board technically passes on to you guys. But that's where it became political and where we began to see a little bit of that these people here were the ones that were raising your taxes.
What about this year? Become more political?
Well, I'd say it became more political in 22 with we have 7 members on our board. We're 3 that are up for re-election in this cycle and 4 in the other 2-year cycle. And it became very heated 2 years ago with the folks the other half of the board that was running. And I think we had different organizations that had formed in the community who wanted to say that I'm going to vote in people who represent my mindset. And as Scott said, we've tried very hard to stay away from true R&D politics. Our mindset is that kids need to learn. They need to be safe. They need good teachers. They need good buildings. They need all of the quality things that go into education, and none of that is political, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to take just one further step on that, I think anytime you're talking to people about their children, their grandchildren, their community, there's emotion involved, right? Nothing. I get more emotional about my boys than anything else in this world. Sometimes when I miss a 3-foot putt, but no, honestly though, my boys, I get so emotional about. And when you take that and then you take the fact that the political rhetoric in general in our society has been ramped up, education can be an easy target at times because people know about that emotional connection that people have. So it's used almost, in my opinion, to divide folks when it's the one thing that should be bringing us all together. Yes?
If parents are in favor of not
Because when you're a teacher and you come here and you've been in this district, you know you never want to leave. And that's the truth, right? Which is a lot of why we're both running again, because we love this community and district.
Question, like who decides how to keep the schools safe regarding like gun safety?
Yeah.
or guns?
So Ultimately, that's a responsibility that falls on the board, but we have a safety and security team that we've built out in our 8 years.
Didn't exist 8 years ago when we
Right.
started.
That is not just one person, but it's a team of folks that is regularly out in schools doing safety checks, looking at the most relevant and new research out there about what we can do to keep our schools safe, keep our property safe, keep our extracurriculars safe. We're constantly trying to stay ahead of the things that are out there.
So for example, 8 years ago, we didn't have SROs in all of our schools. That's also, we have to fund those, right? So we have increased the funding significantly because now we have one in every school. We have two in some of the larger schools, like the high schools and some of the bigger campuses. There's a lot of things we don't share with the public that we've done, but we've spent a lot of investment on things that can be done both physically, but also things that are done through learning and education within the schools. And if you see something, say something. We've got apps out there. We've got anonymous reporting tips, all kinds of things like that can be done as well that are shared among the students and the families. And again, all that kind of information is also out on the website, and you can link into those even if you're not a parent.
And I don't want to invite any tough questions, but I'm not afraid to answer tough questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Matt, but I know there is one topic that I've heard whispered out here that we can come back after Matt's done talking and talk about it, that ties to school safety and really how important it is for us to stay on top of safety and security plans at all of our locations. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and then we can come back and talk about that if you want at the end. Thank you.
I'm actually going to use the mic even though I don't need to because I know we're streaming this and I want to make sure that my golden-throated voice is heard across the interwebs. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Some of you are very familiar faces to me. I've seen you in previous visits I've made to this community, and I've seen you out there on the streets, whether it be at the SILFAB functions or various shared events that we go to. I want to talk a little bit about myself. My wife told me recently I'm no good at that, and I need to be better about kind of like giving the Matt story. So my name's Matt Vilardebo. I'm a 51-year-old reliability engineer. I've been doing that for 30 years. I've been involved in maintenance and reliability for 30 years. I worked my way up as a technician in the field, just being a data collection guy, working in the most disgusting places you could imagine working in life: power plants, cement factories, fertilizer facilities with acid everywhere. And just doing that. Finally worked my way up to analyst, and just about, I'd say 10 years ago, I transitioned into program management. I'm one of the few people in America actually working as an engineer without a degree in engineering. That doesn't happen very often, and it's so rare that I don't think you'll ever probably see that happen as the newer generations come through. I've been married to my wife Alita for 23 years. She is a public school teacher right here in Fort Mill, so I can attest to all the things that Kristi and Dr. Frattaroli said about their highly qualified professionals. My wife is certainly one of those. I have 2 adult children. Wife and I are new to being empty nesters. Our son is 22. He's in his second senior year over at Winthrop University. I'm sure many of you can relate. He is editor-in-chief of the Johnsonian, the school newspaper, and he is very active in the community himself. He has spent years as a counselor with the Flyers After School program, and just recently moved over to journalism. My daughter is 18 years old. She graduated from Catawba Ridge High School, the first of the 4-year class at that school. She graduated last year, and she is now serving our country in the United States Navy. Thank you very much. It's the first person with my last name to serve our country in the United States military, so it's a very proud moment, not a long history of courageous service in the Vilardebo family. My children are great examples of the, for lack of a better term, the awesomeness of this school district, right? My family is a part of this community. We have ingrained ourselves and become a part of the fabric of York County and Fort Mill. And, now we kind of get to the political talk here. So, one of the tougher challenges is I face, not just as a Democrat, but as a guy running for office who's not from here. There's a very strong sense of people like me aren't qualified just because I'm not from here. And I wholesalely reject that. I think that's divisive talk, and I don't think that brings us forward as a community. From census year to census year, that is a 10-year stretch, we saw 132% population growth in this community. That far outweighs this mentality. The problem is we're not organized and we're hyper-partisan. So instead of voting for people who will act in the best interests of the entire community, we're just clicking boxes for R&D. So I know I'm running for a partisan seat. I'm not naive to that, and I have been a very proud forward-facing Democrat in my efforts to win this election. There are distinct differences between my opponent and I, but he has never served, so I don't really have much to go on for him. I can tell you that he represents the Republican Party, which we can unequivocally say has spent 20 years dragging this state down to the bottom of the barrel in every meaningful, measurable metric, okay? Things like, yeah, go ahead, give me a round of applause for that. I'll take it. Things like public education, things like maternal mortality, things like infant mortality. Infant mortality is the likelihood a child will die in the first year of their life. South Carolina hovers somewhere around where developing countries in this world hover around. We're the United States of America, okay? South Carolina is in the United States of America. I can tell you as somebody who has traveled all over this country and this world, we are hands down the greatest country on this planet. Hands down. Do we have our issues? Sure. Are we perfect? Far from it. But we do have real freedom here. As somebody who went and lived in a Middle Eastern country for 20 months of his life, I can tell you, living in a theocratic monarchy is not ideal. And that is what having your real freedoms taken from you looks like. I do want to bring up one specific issue with this group in particular because it's important to y'all, and I've seen how vocal you are about it. And that is that damn Silfab solar plant.
Absolutely.
So we know the county, York County, made a decision. They made a vote on a fee in lieu of. It feels wrong, right? It feels like something was kept from us, something bigger was voted on, and it was hidden under a term called fee in lieu of. And in that fee in lieu of, it approved that plant to go in there. So now we're caught up in a legal process where there's, I believe, 2 lawsuits. We're still waiting to hear back on one. We just heard recently that one of them will be moved up, if you were, for some further evaluation. And I don't know how we're at where we're at, where a company sees a significant community outpouring of concern and, some safety issues about some new schools that are going to be built there. But Silfab is bound and determined to build this plant because there's a lawsuit involved. Those county officials we'd like to talk to, we don't have access to them now. So we don't get to pick their brain and kind of figure out what's going on. We don't get to change their vote. But I want to let y'all know that not just as an elected official, but as a voter, as a citizen who lives here, I am very uneasy with the location of that plant in relationship to those 2 new schools. I feel like we're courting a level of disaster and potential disaster that, I don't know, that the juice doesn't seem worth the squeeze to me, okay? Are y'all following me when I say something like that? Do we want to so again, I know the county is trying. I've been vocal in keeping the heat off the school board the best I can. This is not a school board decision. This has nothing to do, the schools didn't do this. The county did this. So I just, if I could present some facts in here to everybody, I just want y'all to be clear. And as a state representative, even if I was elected, there might have been very little I could have done about this, except just make sure that we're holding folks accountable. Who in this room, by show of hands, was at the Ralph Norman Forum? Yep. How many of y'all were pleased with that? Right? So does having the DOT at an event inspire confidence in anybody in this room? Look around at these roads in this area. where they want to build that is like 80% liquid asphalt. There's not even the original roads really left through that corridor. The way we handle the infrastructure in this area is very strange to me, and the sort of way it's ignored. So, we have options and we have ways to do things, especially with that SILFAB plant. I'm hoping these lawsuits will result in that plant moving. I don't want the plant to close. I want the jobs to stay here. I support green energy and a path towards that, but not at the cost of, some questionable safety moves. And I've had people literally crying on my shoulder over this issue, y'all. The Ralph Norman Forum, for those of you there, we remember that mom that stood up and broke down crying, talking about her concern. That is real, y'all. I mean, these are real parents with real children in these schools. So just keep that in mind as you vote, and you talk to your friends. You hear a lot of people around here talking about how they're friends of business, right? Oh, I'm pro small business. Well, all that sort of being a partner of business and being pro-business talk is what gets SILFAB in your backyard, and what kind of leads to what some of us in political circles called NIMBYism, that not in my backyard mentality, right? So let's be careful. Let's share with everybody we can, spread the word. For those of you wondering, my campaign specifically, we need to do as much advertising as we can leading up to Election Day. So for those of you in attendance, I'm pushing real hard right now for people to contribute to Venmo and PayPal on my campaign. If you got $5, I'll take it. If you got 10, I'll take it. If you got more, certainly we'll take it. But that's what I need from you today. If everybody in this room just gave $5, $10, we could really push this campaign advertising through to the finish line. Our shutoff for advertising on social media is October 30th. So whatever advertising we're doing needs to be approved and running before October 30th. So time is ticking. We're 2 weeks out. I'm here to answer any questions if y'all have any also. So let's hear it. Yes, ma'am.
So this state position, I don't even know who has the position now, because we've got a new guy running on the Republican Party. So I don't know a whole lot about what role and what things are you targeting that you want to accomplish when you get there?
Yes, so as a candidate, those sort of platform issues we run on. My 3 major platform issues are health care. We have an abortion ban in this state that is dangerous, and it adversely impacts our communities of color. We have 14 counties in this state where OBGYNs do not practice health care. That's dangerous. It's going to get people killed. Infrastructure. I'm not just talking about roads. I'm talking about all of it. I keep saying, and I hate being right about things like this, but it's dangerous to ignore infrastructure. We have seen one crossing guard killed. We just had another one struck by a vehicle in front of Catawba Ridge High School. And before the one that was struck and killed, we had one struck by a vehicle in front of River Trail Elementary. And we're going to have 3 crossing guards now in the past 14 to 18 months that don't come back to work because of an accident at work. Crossing guards should be safely escorting children across the street through a crossing zone onto school property, not, acting as traffic cops. I feel like the way things are isn't safe for anybody, and there's a better way to do this. The DOT has got to embrace their responsibility. Again, here we are talking about the SCDOT. They are an absolute mess. Zero accountability. When we come to them and ask for reductions in speed limits through school zones, that should be something they're willing to cooperate on. It shouldn't be something they're stonewalling people on. So now I hate to sound so grim, and I'm certainly not trying to be glib, but are we going to wait for a kid to die before the SCDOT, takes some action on this? It just doesn't make sense. And then lastly, public education. Public education in the state and across the country is meaningful to me. And yes, it's because my wife has been a public school teacher for 23 years. And yes, it's because my children are products of that public education system. But it's also because public education is what gives us our greatness as a country, right? All our American ingenuity really comes from our public education institutions. And those should be protected and supported. Our instructors should be paid what they're worth, and they should be supported. We shouldn't have this culture of fear that exists in the schools now. And I know what I'm talking about here. I like to make all these bold, bombastic, I'm the only candidate for SC 26 statements, but I can tell you I'm the only candidate for SC 26 that has read teacher contracts year in and year out. So I know exactly the comings and goings of being a public educator in this district and in this state. And those are the three issues I'm running on. So, yeah.
How much support are you getting from the party?
So the state party has been very supportive, provided me some great data, has kind of helped me with my campaign a lot. No. I am in York County, South Carolina. I am the now two-time candidate for this SC 26 State House seat, and I get no financial support from the DNC, the SC DP, or the YCDP. All the money I get, I raise on my own. It comes from folks like you. 2 years ago when I ran, I mistakenly chipped in about $5,000 of my own money. Not doing that this time, y'all. If I can't win on what I'm running on and the way we've set out this campaign this season, then it's just an unwinnable district in my mind. But I feel strong. This year, it's great. We have Ray Felder retiring after 12 years. The guy I'm running against is a relative newcomer to politics. He's very smart about not being hyperpartisan. He's from the area, which, again, we talked about earlier. That goes a long way around here. So he's got that core from here support that I've got some of that coming my way. I do have folks who have streets named after them in this town supporting me financially and publicly and in every way that I could ask for their support. But, he's definitely got more of that than I do. Anything else, y'all? Anything related to SILFAB? I thought this group would be like fired up, torches and pitchforks for SILFAB. Hey, and y'all take it easy on those school board candidates. We have great school board candidates, with the exception, and I'm running for a partisan seat, so I can say this kind of stuff, Ellen Abramo. Don't vote for Ellen Abramo. Her name is Ellen Abramo. You want nothing to do with her. We don't need somebody like that on our school board, so in division within our school district. Scott and Kristi have done an excellent job in their roles. We have some other great candidates running. Vote for any of them, but do not vote for Ellen. Please, y'all.
We do know that.
Yeah, and just real quick also, something else to share with this group. I've done some firsts this year that have not been done in this area, if ever, and certainly not in decades. So I am the first Democrat to run in back-to-back elections. I am the first Democrat running for state rep, probably in this ever, certainly in York County, that has received the endorsement of Every Town for Gun Safety. A lot of candidates get the Gun Sense voter endorsement, but I have the actual financial endorsement from Every Town for Gun Safety. I am on a list with Jim Clyburn, Senator Tamika Isaac Devine, and another state rep candidate named John McCarthy. So historically in the past, Jim Clyburn's the only one who gets that endorsement. So I'm out there doing things, y'all. I'm putting in the work. I'm bringing the recognition we need to this area. I wish Soros would bring the money truck here. I wish Bloomberg would bring the money truck here. I'd take it. Quote me on that. So, but they don't. So it's up to the sort of grassroots efforts you see from me. And those of you who have known me for a while have seen me put in that effort. I go knock doors personally. I've got volunteers helping me this time. So it's been a lot easier on me physically and emotionally doing this campaign this year. But, we need help. We just got to get the word out. I need to make sure voters know to get out and vote for me. And we've gotten the numbers to win this as far as Democratic numbers in this county. We do. It's just that they have been successfully disenfranchised into believing that we're not here. But we are, and we need to get out and vote. So don't let anybody buy into that empathy, y'all, that when you hear that malaise and that we've already lost this, shut it down, counter them with positivity, and have them get out there and vote. And I guess that's it. Oh, wait, I see a hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a quick question.
what is your stance or your opinions about public school vouchers or private school vouchers for parents who choose to send their children to a private school and they can tap into X amount of dollars of taxpayer money for that?
So public dollars belong in public schools. I do not support vouchers. They disproportionately serve upper income children anyway. We know that these vouchers are not coming to the rescue of poor children of color in the worst neighborhoods in the state. These vouchers are putting, golf course kids through golf course schools. So, all right. Thank y'all. And
Well, we have the room till 12, maybe 10 after 12. If you guys want to circulate, if you have special questions. Remember, next on election night, 5 to 7, y'all welcome to come sit.
Do you want us to just talk?
Yeah.
But before we do that, can I talk about vouchers for just 1 second? I guess I get asked a question a lot of times if I'm for vouchers, but also for school choice. We have some excellent charter schools that are, in fact, public schools and are other alternatives to our school district. And I am not opposed to any parent that chooses to go to a different school. And in fact, I'm not opposed to a parent who chooses to take their child to a private school. If funding were no object, I think the state would say, fine. I still have issues with public dollars going to private schools, but it's not even worth discussing until we're adequately funded, and we're clearly not based on the tax conversation we had earlier. So I just wanted to add on to that.
How many charter schools, public charter schools are in Fort Mill?
The two I can name off the top of my head are Legion and York Prep Academy. I don't know if there are.
And they're not in Fort Mill.
They're not far, but
Fort Mill kids can go there.
absolutely. And when Legion opened, we lost a lot of kids because it is geared towards those who want to focus on athletics and things like that. And we lost star quarterbacks. Is that my phone? Sorry. People that wanted that was their choice for their child, and it's okay. All right. Do you want to talk about SILFAB?
Yeah.
Or something else?
No.
Okay.
We have to talk about
Okay.
SILFAB when it comes to the school district.
Okay.
And I am so confused and so frustrated, as I'm sure you are. I wrote a letter, probably to you
us.
I wrote a letter and to Dr.
Chaps.
Epps. Did not receive a response. And my main body of that letter was, why am I more upset about the safety of our children than the school board? I'm not accepting. The mayor of Fort Mill told me it's not in her jurisdiction. I'm really sorry. Michael Johnson told me SILFAB is not even in Fort Mill. I have it
the town.
written.
Yeah, in the town limits.
It's in the county of York, but it is in the town of Fort Mill, which is in the county of York. I feel that the school district should do the most here with the building of those schools. Now, the school district is top-notch now. It's not going to be top-notch if this gets on board. I don't understand why in your board you don't have a grassroots, that you don't just get up and that you weren't there at the zoning, and the meetings in front of the county. I just don't understand. What are you going to wait for? The school's not being filled, the teachers not wanting to work there, and then what happens when there's an accident? Is that when everybody's filled?
Okay. I'll start. And I've known Kristi for 8 years. But anybody that questions that I don't care about the students in Fort Mill more than another citizen doesn't know my history. I have dedicated my entire professional life to this community. And just because you don't necessarily hear anything coming as a united board doesn't mean that we don't care, I think is the number one thing I want to say. And Matt talked about this. This is not a board issue. What is a board issue is keeping the kids at that school safe and making sure that we are meeting with the correct authorities that do have the opportunities to vet, to make sure that the zoning is approved. I was at the meeting with DHEC, what was DHEC at the time, back in October, a year ago. The only reason why I wasn't at the board zoning meeting is because I had a Camp Kudos meeting, of which I'm president of that board, that I had to attend. But I watched it, right? So just because you necessarily don't see us at rallies, I'm not a rally goer. You're not going to see me at a rally. But I think this is the point that I want to make here. The knowledge that we both share. For me, I can point to my experience as a school principal. When I opened Sugar Creek, I had to sit with a group of emergency management folks to talk about the train tracks and if there were a derailment and what you had to do to keep the school safe. We, as a school principal, we met every year to talk with York County Emergency Management. We had biannual meetings with York County Emergency Management to talk about what evacuation looks like, how you keep children safe, what sheltering in place looks like. Those are the things that are tangible things that the school district does have control over that we can do. I'm gonna toot Kristi's horn here for just a second. A few years ago, we had to deal with a situation that was similar, maybe on a smaller scale, where we were we weren't. There was a gas station opening on the same adjacent property to an elementary school where I used to be principal. And the playground area actually is side by side with the gas station. And we heard a lot of the same concerns, a lot of the same complaints about toxic chemicals. I'm going to toot her horn in that she probably put in 100 to 1,000 extra hours of work meeting with the people, with the county, meeting with the people at the state level, meeting with everybody that we needed to as a district vet, and reporting regularly to the board. This is what I found out about this. Those are the same types of conversations that we're involved in from a security standpoint with those emergency management teams, with the state agencies, to make sure that all of the things that company needs to do to jump through hoops that we're staying on top of. If somebody is out there telling you on the campaign trail they're going to do something as a school board member to stop this, they're lying to you. I'm telling you right now, they're lying to you. And what you're going to end up seeing is people with actual knowledge on how to deal with the problem not getting reelected, because we can't just say anything we want to. We have to deal with the facts.
So I'm just going to add a little bit. I got a question the other day from someone asking why I wasn't at one of the rallies. It was the weekend my daughter moved home from college, and I was moving her home from college. So just because I'm not at every event doesn't mean I don't care and that I'm not concerned. Back to the 2020, whatever it was, 1 or 2, with the gas station. I'd never heard any of the concerns about this until they started flooding my inbox. So I spent the entire summer learning about benzene, which was at the time the concern, finding out who to deal with in DHEC, with the town, with the county, with everybody else, and really trying to separate fact from fiction. And while I am not going to challenge that there are not planned to be very hazardous chemicals at this location, what I can tell you is that we've been in conversations about things like only delivery outside of certain hours so that they will never come into interaction with a bus or a student. We've been in conversations. They've actually, I don't know how much you've seen, but they've turned the campus, the SILFAB campus, around in their plans so that it will separate the chemicals from the school. It's still close. It's still close, but I've seen their emergency management plans. The EPA has approved them. I have no other option as an elected official but to accept the decisions that have been made by a state agency. And if DHEC has granted permission or the county has granted a permit, I can rally, I can picket. It doesn't change a judge's mind. So we are in the hands of the judicial system right now to decide whether or not the zoning appeal should be upheld, because the zoning appeal says you're heavy industrial, you can't go there. Right. The current permit issued before that said you're light industrial, you can. I don't influence judges as much as I wish I could. And so I don't know when that may be decided, how it's going to go. So in the meantime, we're working very closely with the fire department. And again, somebody asked about safety earlier. Our experts are working very closely with the SILFAB engineers, and they have a safety guy, I don't remember his name, as well as the fire department, the head of York County Emergency Management, to say what are the options that we can put in place, what can we do to keep that school safe while our children are in it. And
if the teacher is assigned there, will you take into consideration if they have concerns or if they wish not to go there?
Having been through the reassignment process, and you were in the district, reassignment is generally based on people wanting to go to locations.
choice, their choice.
There's a lot that choose not to
Right,
go.
obviously, when I opened Sugar Creek, I was an unknown young principal. Nobody wanted to come with me, nobody with experience, right? So I got to hire a lot of teachers, and a lot of younger teachers came with me. And I'm telling you, Sugar Creek was a special place because of just the dynamic of what we were able to do. I have the full confidence in having watched attendance areas blossom over the years and knowing that if everything works out and we are opening that school at some point in time, not only will the students be successful, but it will be a thriving community school the way all of our other elementary schools and middle schools and high schools are. So,
I just have one question. Do you know what was approved first, the schools or the?
So we bought the property in 2016. We added some property to it in 2017. We got permission from the, what's it called? Not DOT, but the other one, the something of facilities, what's it called? There's an organization, Office of School, OSF, yep. Office of School Facilities, is really who permits school locations. We got that done in 2021. And then we had to begin the process of building the school. I had never heard anything discussed about SILFAB until October of 23, right? Mm-hmm. We did know, and this had nothing to do with SILFAB, the county went through a rezoning something process, and they said, oh, we're going to change the code. They didn't change anything about the property. What they said is, we believe schools should be located in residential locations, not in light industrial, because we'd always been in light industrial before, and we had bought the land and gotten the approval in light industrial. So long before SILFAB, before we'd ever heard anything about it, we went back to the county and said, we've already bought this land, it's already been approved, can we be grandfathered in for this location? And they said yes, and so we got that approved. And we moved forward with all of our plans. Never had heard the term SILFAB, never had any idea what was going to be going on over on the other side.
So that's school property?
No, our school property.
Is that on the school?
No, it's on an adjacent land.
Did you
Yeah.
break ground yet?
Oh yes, we've been clearing ground for ages.
So when did you break ground? When did you start?
Oh boy, December of 22 is when we passed the changes to the impact fee. So I would say January 1st of 21, give or take. I mean. Immediately after. So we've been working on that site for years. When is it going to open? It's going to open in August. It's going to open in August.
And I just want to say to the room real quick, I've known Kristi for years. Sorry, Scott. Kristi is an unparalleled, giver. I've watched her sacrifice her personal time to go serve the homeless, to serve her community, and to give back. So for whatever it's worth for y'all to hear that from me, Kristi is a very concerned individual, and I would certainly not sit here and allow anybody to put forward anything that would cast her as anything other than that.
But I'm not king, and I can't control what I can't control.
Obviously, but
I have a question about perception.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got new information today about what happens behind the scenes with you all actively addressing concerns and trying to do something about something over which you probably have no power to change. As a former communication professor and a former mass comm professor at Winthrop, where his son is now the editor of the Johnsonian, I just wanted to say, it's a question of no comment is not a comment. Is there any way that the board can be empowered or is empowered or able to at least put out a statement like Susan Collins does about being concerned.
So
is there a statement out there?
there's probably 3 statements out there in the last 6 weeks that are by our communications director, who has tried to share factual information from a school standpoint of what we can do, can't do, are doing, et cetera. So again, I know it's tough because you guys most don't have children in the schools, but our Fort Mill School District Facebook page and website have a ton of information officially out there as recent as last Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, because there's this perception of silence,
I know.
And that is actually misleading because people don't know. And then there's the perception that the schools, which are going to be so heavily impacted, are the ones that are not saying anything.
I think part of the problem, though, is not necessarily silence, is people are perceiving that what we're telling them doesn't make sense to them. So it's either silence or things that people don't want to hear. They don't think we're doing enough.
Or don't believe.
Right.
Right? I mean,
So I think we battle all 3 of those things.
we got a ton of questions, and yours may have been one of them, I don't know. We were getting all kinds of questions. So we went to CN2 and said, help us get this information. And they brought SILFAB guys in, and nobody believed the answers. I mean, I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I don't have any additional information. That's the official spokespersons. This is how they described what they were doing, what they weren't doing, et cetera. And then we got criticized for, putting out propaganda.
So what is the board going to do with the parents? Because that's where it would really end up. They're going to not bring their kids to that school. They're going to demand of Fort Mill School District that their kids can go to some other school, or they're going to take and go to a private school, but they're not going to send their children there. Do you guys, have you been thinking about this? Because that's going to happen. Parents are parents.
By law, we have to provide a free and appropriate public education. And
If no one goes?
I don't believe that's the reality. I know there will be some. There were some for the gas station. There were some.
A few.
But I don't believe we're going to have 1,000 that leave. So we're going to open the school. And what we found with the gas station is about 6 months later they came back.
yes.
I have a question for Matt Vilardebo. On the ballot, we have 2 questions. One I'm clear on, the second one I'm not. The tax, the 1% tax, I understand, is just a renewal of...
Yeah, so I'm definitely voting yes on the Pennies for Progress.
It's just a renewal?
It's a renewal of that and an expansion of the program. Pennies for Progress... Yeah, it's what allows for this county construction. It isn't federal. I think it contributed some dollars to the 160 interchange, but that's mainly federal money.
But it is doing the 21 widening out
Yeah.
the Pennies project.
And as far as the other one, I'm a hard no on that. We don't need to politicize how we vote. Again, that is a performative bunch of nonsense. And I love, for those of y'all that follow me on social and have been around me before, I like, bombast and excitement and a lot of energy, right? I mean, I like getting people fired up. I'll have people ready to run through walls. I'll get them fired up. But I also understand there's a time and a place for that too. So we don't need to bring that circus sideshow to how we write our laws.
Were we supposed to get a sample ballot with the 2 questions, because we never got it?
You can. I don't think they just automatically mail that out to everybody. Yeah, you can get it online. I think it's, me as somebody that's running, I like going and seeing my name on the dang ballot. I'm like, wow, look at there, Matt Vilardebo.
It has to do with
The citizens, it's the wording of how you're a citizen. It's either a true citizen or a real, it's literally that silly. Yeah, it's a one-word change, but it's that Project 2025 sort of stuff that you see.
Now I know it. I think I should
Listen, we all came here from somewhere. I mean, I don't see anybody that favors Native American in this room, so.
Well, that's what you need to.
Anything else, y'all? Hey, So if for those who do want to help me out and contribute via PayPal and Venmo, I got a little poster set up on that table. It's got a QR code you can scan. That'll take you to a way to do that. Or you can just come talk to me, and I'll get you, let you scan the QR code from my phone. But definitely need that input. And thanks again, y'all. I'm glad the school board candidates came.
Come to the, happy hour, November 5th, you want to stop by 5 to 7 and have a pre-celebration.
I'm not going to be in a celebratory mood on the 5th.
We are.
I'm just going to be nervous. It isn't that I think I'm going to lose. I'm just going to be a nervous wreck.
November 5th, 5 to 7, I'll send out a notice.